You are listening to the Grand Canyon TV audio tour for Mammals of the Grand Canyon. Some call wildlife animals. Some call animals wildlife. Scientists like to refer to wildlife as fauna. The fauna of a region. Fauna comes from the name of a Roman goddess of earth and fertility. Also the Roman god Faunus, and the related forest spirits called fauns. All three of those words are cognates of the name of the Greek god Pan. So if we take the etymology back further, you have Pan, which is the Greek equivalent of fauna. It's no secret that ancient people all over the world saw animals as spirits or gods. People used to learn quite a lot of things from animals. Ants are basically mound builders. Almost all insects and many mammals burrow into the ground when temperatures get too hot or too cold. And this is how many ancient homes were built. If you're lost in the wilderness, you can often find game trails from big mammals, the footprints of these big mammals, and they'll likely lead you to water. In my opinion, I feel we humans have diverged from learning from animals to trying to control animals. But what if humbling ourselves and learning what animals have to teach us is the solution to so many of our modern problems? With that tone, I'd like to teach you about the mammals of the Grand Canyon. I'll start with some of the smaller mammals and work my way up to the largest. So start to think about and discuss amongst yourselves, what is the largest mammal at the Grand Canyon? The smallest mammals at the Grand Canyon are the bats, the mice, the rats. I've seen bats on the rims of the canyon as well as at the very bottom of the canyon. They typically come out around sundown to hunt for bugs. For that reason, they will be seen around water sources when they're inside the canyon, or at the rims of the canyon, they might be attracted to lights, which are attracting bugs. A small bat can eat up to 5,000 bugs per night. These are some of the species of bat found at the Grand Canyon National Park. The western mastiff bat, big free-tailed bat, pocketed free-tailed bat, Mexican free-tailed bat, Mexican long-tongued bat, California leaf-nosed bat, pallid bat, Townsend's big-eared bat, big brown bat, spotted bat, Allen's big-eared bat, silver-haired bat, western red bat, hoary bat, California myotis, western small-footed myotis, long-eared myotis, Arizona myotis, fringed myotis, cave myotis, long-legged myotis, Yuma myotis, and the canyon bat. Bats can see as well as we humans can see, but they also use echolocation to navigate and find food at night. So the bats will echolocate by emitting high-frequency calls, and they will determine how far away an object is by how long it takes an echo of their call to return to them. Using echolocation, bats can also determine the size, texture, and speed of an insect. Bats are the only flying mammal. All right, I mean, you get flying squirrels, but they can't fly like a bat can fly. Bats really are the only flying mammal in the world. One time I was conducting a Jeep tour at the Grand Canyon, and on the way back to home base after sunset, a bat popped into the Jeep through one of the side flaps. It was stunned and not moving. However, using some gloves, we were able to remove the bat from the vehicle later and put it back into the wilderness. You want to be careful when encountering bats. They can carry disease like rabies. So as I begin to tell you more about the mammals of Grand Canyon, know that you should never touch, handle, feed, approach the wildlife at the Grand Canyon. With that said, let's talk about the mice. In every employee housing I've lived in at the Grand Canyon, we've had mice problems. This is a very wild place, and mice are seeking shelter and food, and they can contort their bodies to squeeze through holes as small as a pencil can fit through. At Grand Canyon, there are deer mice, the western jumping mouse, the bushy-tailed wood rat, Ord's kangaroo rat, which I've seen that kangaroo rat down at Plateau Point, and there are shrews. Shrews are about the size of a mouse, but they've got this super pointy nose, kind of like a mole. We then get the yellow pine chipmunk, cliff chipmunk, golden mantled ground squirrel, the white-tailed antelope ground squirrel, the rock squirrel, red squirrels, Albert's squirrel, and the kaibab squirrel. Now, something interesting about Albert's squirrel and the kaibab squirrel, approximately 10,000 years ago, the kaibab squirrel was geographically separated from a common ancestor of the Albert squirrel. This separation cut off the gene flow from the Albert squirrel, and the kaibab squirrel began to evolve on its own on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. All right, so we find kaibab squirrels on the north side of the canyon. We do not find them on the south. The kaibab squirrel's habitat is confined entirely to the ponderosa pine forest of the north rim of the Grand Canyon National Park and the northern section of the Kaibab National Forest around the town of Jacob Lake, Arizona. The kaibab squirrel is different from the Albert squirrel because it has developed a darker belly and forelimbs. Their tails are white, and the backs of their heads are a chestnut brown. Some people say the two species of squirrel developed because of the Colorado River cutting the canyon in half. But wait. That is believed to have been happening for millions of years. Whereas 10,000 years ago, when these species branched off, it's more widely believed that the kaibab squirrels began descending from the populations of Albert squirrel that dispersed into the Grand Canyon area following the last ice age. As the climate warmed, so we're coming out of an ice age, the climate is warming, the ponderosa pine forests and the Albert squirrels living there were limited to areas of high elevation like the Kaibab Plateau on the north rim. So supposedly they could have lived everywhere during the ice age because temperatures were cooler, but as it warmed, it isolated the two sides of the canyon, the two rims of the canyon, because that is where these squirrels can live. As the climate cooled again and ponderosa pines once again grew at lower elevations like the south rim, other Albert squirrel subspecies filled in their former niches on the south side. Squirrels are one of the most common animals to encounter during a Grand Canyon visit. You should never feed these animals. All right? Keep a safe distance. Squirrels of the Grand Canyon carry fleas, which carry the Black Plague. Yes, the Black Plague that wiped out half of Europe in the Middle Ages. People have died of the plague at Grand Canyon in recent years. So the best way to avoid it is to avoid feeding wildlife or touching squirrels, which they're going to run right up to you begging for food. So keep your food locked up. And if you go on TikTok or Instagram and you type in Grand Canyon, some of the top videos getting millions of views are these people saying that, oh, I saved this dying squirrel by feeding it and giving it water. And they're putting their water bottle right up to this squirrel, not realizing that they're putting themselves at great risk of getting the Black Plague. So do not believe these videos on the internet. Do not believe that you're saving an animal by giving it water and food at Grand Canyon. These animals have survived for tens of thousands of years without you. Don't feed the animals. Let them be wild. Moving up in size with our mammals, we also get badgers, river otters, striped skunks, spotted skunks, hog-nosed skunks, beavers. And the beavers love to cut down trees by the creeks of the Grand Canyon, down in those little pockets and side canyons. I'll often see the evidence, the teeth marks of trees cut down by beavers. Those trees that are right down around Bright Angel Campground on the Bright Angel Creek by Phantom Ranch, they actually put wire around those cottonwoods because they don't want the beavers cutting down all those trees that are great for shade. There are porcupines, raccoons, minks, long-tailed weasels, white-tailed prairie dogs, desert cottontail bunnies, and you get this hare that has very big ears, the black-tailed jackrabbits. One of my favorite animals to see at the Grand Canyon is the ringtail. The ringtail is Arizona's state mammal. The ringtail looks like a cross between a squirrel, a raccoon, a monkey, and a cat. Ringtails are sometimes called a ringtail cat or a minor cat. And sure, they climb trees and leap around like cats. I've seen them down around Phantom Ranch, and I've also seen them make their way all the way up to the Grand Canyon Village, especially when the weather gets warmer in the summertime. We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of bobcats in the Grand Canyon. There's red and gray fox, coyotes, javelina, which is a New World peccary. You'll see javelina around Sedona, and Flagstaff and javelina will make their way all the way up to the edge of the canyon. They're not typically going to go down there. They'll turn around, and then they'll go back down south again. But that javelina looks like a hog. It's a New World peccary. We get the bighorn sheep. The bighorn sheep populations in North America suffered when Europeans began to show up in the 1500s. This is because they brought other animals that like to graze on grass, and this was taking away from the diet of the bighorn sheep. However, the Grand Canyon is a very harsh environment, and so many of these outsider animals just didn't end up at the Grand Canyon, which has allowed for the Grand Canyon to have one of the largest and most genetically diverse, naturally persisting populations of desert bighorn sheep in the world. These are the rams. The males are the rams with the big curling horns. I've heard this is the only place in North America where they didn't need to be repopulated. The desert bighorn sheep have lived here forever, uninterrupted. Whatever forever is for their species. Now, oftentimes I might see these desert bighorn sheep down at the bottom of the canyon by a water source, but every so often you'll actually find them right near El Tovar Hotel. Everybody at El Tovar Hotel, they're looking out at the canyon, they're walking up to the wall, the stone wall at the edge of the canyon, they're looking out. But if you look just directly over the stone wall, the desert bighorn sheep is often hanging out right there. Now, an animal that did have to be repopulated at the Grand Canyon South Rim was the elk. The natural Miriam's elk that had more of a reddish fur, they were hunted out before it was a national park. So the elk you typically see around the roadway and around the Grand Canyon Village, these are the Rocky Mountain elk which were brought in, repopulated. We also get the black-tailed mule deer, so you'll see some bucks. We get the fastest land animal in North America. Can you guys guess what it is? The fastest land animal in North America. This is called the pronghorn antelope. Pronghorn antelope can run at least 60 miles per hour. Do you know the fastest human in the world? Think about Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt's top speed as a sprinter is about 28 miles per hour. And he's doing that at 100 meters, 200 meters. Pronghorn antelope can run 60 miles per hour for much more than Usain Bolt's, 10-second and 20-second sprints. Jawbone fossils of American cheetah have been found in fossilized form in the Grand Canyon's caves. It's believed that the American cheetah went extinct and it left the pronghorn with this incredible speed. Also, talking about predators and prey, you're going to see elk and deer often hanging around the busy areas of Grand Canyon. Well, they've been safe from hunters for over 100 years now. There's no hunting in the Grand Canyon National Park. So the elk and deer have found that by hanging around the people, it keeps them safe from the mountain lion. The mountain lion, aka the puma. This is the main predator of the pronghorn, of the deer, of the elk, of the bighorn sheep, and probably the scariest mammal you'll encounter at the Grand Canyon today. Mountain lions in the Grand Canyon can run 40 to 50 miles per hour. Males can weigh up to 220 pounds. Picture a friend or family member who is 6 feet tall, around 200 pounds. That's about how big a mountain lion is. This is one creature you don't want to have a bad interaction with at the Grand Canyon. There are some lions which are tracked in the canyon. They can easily drop down from the south rim, swim across the mighty Colorado River, and climb all the way up the north rim in a night. Mountain lions can see with 1/6 the light that us humans need to see, which I should also mention when I'm talking about mammals of the Grand Canyon. Humans have been living here, some people say 11,000, 12,000 years. There are artifacts in the canyon like the split twig figures that are said to have been made in 2000 BC or 3000 BC. So humans have been around the canyon for a long time. And we can only wonder what those interactions with mountain lions were like thousands of years ago. Think of humans interacting with mountain lions in the Grand Canyon. As a trail runner, I would often come across mountain lion kill sites. This is in the modern age. I come across mountain lion kill sites. So mountain lions are crepuscular and nocturnal, which means they like to hunt in low light or nighttime. They will position themselves between the sun and their prey, so the prey cannot see them, and they will stalk and creep, and they're smart enough to avoid putting their paw into water because they know that will leave a track. These mountain lions can take down an elk, which can be 4 times their weight. These elk can be 600 to 1,000 pounds. In the kill sites I've seen, the lions seem to have chased down and pounced the elk's rear and taken them down from there. I've also come across coyote kill sites. A pack of coyotes can take down a smaller female elk if they choose. Mountain lions have retractable claws, whereas coyotes always have their claws out like dogs and cats. So the mountain lion's retractable claws are going to help it to climb trees and to capture its prey. When you're looking at tracks and you're trying to identify, was this a coyote or a mountain lion, coyote tracks will have the claw marks, just like dogs. And the mountain lions typically will not have any claw marks in their tracks. Also bobcats, they will not have any claw marks in the track. Another animal hunted out of the Grand Canyon was the Mexican gray wolf. Arizona has been working to restore Mexican gray wolf populations in recent years. Now, I've heard rumors of jaguar. Jaguars live in Mexico, and this could be a black cat. I've heard stories, I've heard rumors, but I haven't confirmed if there are jaguars on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. I think it's only a matter of time before the Mexican gray wolf makes its way back up, as they are repopulating Mexican gray wolves in southern Arizona. I think it's only a matter of time before that Mexican gray wolf appears at the Grand Canyon. There are bear living on the rims of the Grand Canyon. Black bear. So the black bear is the one you can usually scare away, and pretty much every animal at Grand Canyon, if you're in a bad situation, you want to make yourself look big and loud and scary, and you can usually scare these animals away. I've also heard sometimes talking gently, just speaking very gently and calm. You don't want to scare an animal. That whole idea of scaring the animal away, that's more so if they're coming at you and they look like they want to eat you, scare them away. But if you're just kind of walking around, if you can talk at a nice, calm, soothing pace and not make the creature feel threatened, they're usually not going to bother you. The mountain lions have plenty to feed on between the elk, the deer, the bighorn sheep, and if they can catch those pronghorn antelope. But there are black bear that have been caught on camera, game cameras, living on the south rim, especially around the Grandview Point area, where the elevation's higher and the pines are big and tall. There are currently 1,800 grizzly bears in the continental United States. This is not counting Alaska. 1,800 grizzly bears. That's not a huge amount for the entire United States. Most of them are living in Wyoming and Montana, and they used to live around Sedona. Grizzly bears used to live around Flagstaff, and grizzly bears used to live at the Grand Canyon. However, not even so long ago, grizzly bears were hunted out. We're talking the late 1800s, early 1900s. So not even that long ago, you could have encountered a grizzly bear at the Grand Canyon. Grizzly bears are the bears that you stand down. Do not taunt or try to scare a grizzly bear. Don't test them, because you start testing a grizzly bear and it's probably not going to work out so well for you. So what exactly is the largest mammal living at the Grand Canyon today? Drum roll, please. The largest animal living at the Grand Canyon today is the American bison, aka the buffalo. Yes, you can easily see bison while driving into the Grand Canyon North Rim. As of 2023, there are more than 220 bison on the Grand Canyon North Rim. They do not live on the south side of the Grand Canyon. However, there is a population of bison living near Meteor Crater, just east of Flagstaff. Bison are incredibly dangerous. Even though they are vegans, they're herbivores. They don't want to eat you. They don't want to have to fight you. But guess what? People like to walk up, get a close picture with these bison. They do it with the elk, and people die. All right? I'm not going to sugarcoat this. People die from bison, from elk. These animals are very big, very strong. It just takes one solid kick, and that can knock you out. Please, 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 please give the animals at the Grand Canyon space. It is illegal to feed them or approach them. I'll close out this episode with the extinct mammals whose fossils have been found in the caves of the Grand Canyon. I already mentioned the American cheetah. Giant Shasta ground sloths used to roam the Grand Canyon. These creatures were about 9 feet long and weighed up to 550 pounds. They're believed to have occupied the Grand Canyon for thousands of years. Well-preserved dung from the giant ground sloths has been dated from 40,000 years ago to as recently as 24,000 years ago. by analyzing the dung of the giant ground sloths. Imagine that's somebody's job, is to go through dung. If you think you have a crappy job, well, somebody goes through the dung of these ancient giant ground sloths, and they believe by looking at the things that were in their diet that it was more humid at the Grand Canyon. It's believed this is coming out of that last ice age, and then the climate seemed to grow warmer and drier. Vampire bat skulls have been found in the caves of the Grand Canyon. Vampire bats are bats whose food source is indeed the blood of other animals. North American horse fossils have been found in the Grand Canyon caves. And yes, there were natural horses in the Grand Canyon before Europeans brought them over. And that reminds me, you might even see wild horses during your Grand Canyon trip. There are a few packs of wild horses on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. They say these horses have wandered into the national park from the Havasupai Reservation to the west. I've seen many of the mammals, I'd say about 90%, if not 98% of the mammals I mentioned today, I have seen them in my time at the Grand Canyon. So I hope that you see these animals at a safe distance during your trip. As always, I'm your host, Crocky Meshkin, and this episode is sponsored by Clothing of the Gods. If you guys are looking for natural fibers, if you want Grand Canyon t-shirts that are not polyester and they're not rayon and they're not all of these recycled plastics that get washed into your washing machine and sent back into the water cycle and animals are eating plastics. If you guys want natural clothing, go to clothingofthegods.com and you will find 100% natural t-shirts. And I am now permitted to be a Grand Canyon guide. So if you guys want me to be your driver for the day, I do hotel pickup and drop off all the way from Grand Canyon Junction to Tucson to Grand Canyon Village. I can be your driver and guide for the day. clothingofthegods.com.